honestly probably not crazy. A
To be
better
fair,
option for what you're going for. But
this oatmeal tastes good, but I hate the texture.
Yeah, because it's oatmeal. So there's a reason I don't eat oatmeal.
I don't eat regular oatmeal. I can only eat this type of oatmeal.
The only way I can do oatmeal is if it's like super cold and like in a log, and it's not really oatmeal anymore. All right, welcome back. We have now officially made it to the back nine. We are in the second half of the semester officially. So holy shit, I do not know where the first 9 weeks went. So today we're gonna go over announcements. I actually have a few. Woo! And then I thought it would be probably good since the multiplayer game is coming up soonish. I sat down on Wednesday and spent 7 hours and I made one. So I figure it might be good to kind of give you guys hopefully some encouragement for what I'm looking for. And that like, I mean, 7 hours. You got a team. So hopefully that will make it that like you won't feel so overwhelmed maybe by it and pressured by it. Or it's going to have the opposite effect and it'll be like, holy shit, he's expecting that. And he did it in 7 hours. Hopefully that's not going to be the case. Then today specifically, we're going over how to add a few things. So we're going over UX testing and evaluation. So you're going to be required to do this for your individual game project. I'm trying to figure out a way for you to actually part of the people that you need to work with in it to be freshmen so that they can kind of get a picture, an idea of what's coming in the program. It's kind of nice to get that little like sneak peek sometimes. So we're gonna go over that, how it's done. We're gonna take a break. Then we're gonna go, I'm gonna do a live demo on saving and loading data because that's actually kind of a part of the UX testing and evaluation that we're gonna have you do. So it's probably important to teach you how to do it. Then we're going to go over homework, which has to do with saving and loading data. We're going to have a break. And then from the assignment 2, the game 2 on AI, the state machines, it was clear that there's still some kind of like questions on exactly how it works. So I'm going to go over in a little bit more detail the state machines. So for the second half, for that final part, if you're like, I got state machines, they're fabulous, I understand exactly how they work, you're good to go. If you're like, I'm still struggling a bit, please stay. We're going to go a little bit more in depth and kind of set up some new states, really explain more. So hopefully it'll make it clear. Or for those that still have questions, time to answer questions. So that's the plan for today. First announcement I will read because it's a big thing. Please announce. So I guess I should. What is that? Next 2 weeks from now? Yeah. So Friday, November 1st is the next first Fridays with GIMM. I don't want to read this whole thing. It is with Eric Olson. Eric Olson is a board game developer and designer. So he's made game that went straight to Target. They founded their own company with a friend, Messy Table Games. They launched their first game, Booty Dice. I want to know. In 2023, they licensed a card game Flip 7 to USA Opoly, which is a crazy company that launched in August, like a month ago. And then October, they're going to launch 2 more games. They live in Idaho. They play concerts. Yeah. So, I used to do board game design. It's actually kind of I have a bin of my old games that I've made. I actually tried to self-publish one for a while, and that was a shit show. But I had fun with it. And honestly, if you think about it, it's just another way of doing game design. It can kind of be a fun way of actually prototyping games before you actually sit down at a computer. And you never know, right? Someone might actually like think your game's cool and want to publish it. So they're coming. What else we got? Grades. Addie went through and graded everybody's assignment 2, gameplay loop 2. So check your email and grades. I guess there are a few of you that folder didn't come through or something, so she sent some messages, and then there were some notes and messages on Canvas. So check through those, please. The next big one, boss fight projects, due November 3rd. Oh, was that, 3 weeks, give or take. So boss fight really should be kind of heavily based off of your state machine, or is going to be. I could think of ways to do the boss fight without a state machine, and all of them are probably more complicated than doing a state machine. So, so that's why state machine project. That's why we had it. That's the main reason why I'm spending today time to go over that. Yes.
What's like the I guess the minimum amount of states for your boss to check? Because I know you said 3 phase, but each phase could have
It could have multiple states.
within
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So, so there is no, I mean, I guess the minimum is 3 states
You need 3 phases.
because there's 3 phases. I don't think I would shoot for 3 states. I mean, I would probably have, I would have like I would use a state for like a transitionary period if you're going between it, but I really use the states for more what's happening in the phases. Does that make sense? So there'd be something to track what phase it's in, and so then these actions only happen on those phases. You're going to check to make sure that am I in phase? Maybe there's a move that the boss does in phase 1 and 3. So you want to just verify. You'd be tracking in the controller what phase you're on, and then in your states you would more than likely be having a like. Is this stage 1 or 3 or just stage 2, whatever it is, and then you can run that specifically. Is how I would be tackling it. But yeah, I mean, minimum phases has got to have to be 3. You're probably, depending upon what you're doing with it, I would assume that probably you're looking at probably 9 phases, 3 things per phase, but that depends on what you're doing for your boss fight. So, to help. Other questions about the boss fight? Cool. And then I realized I haven't checked in on your individual game projects, and that's the main piece of this course. So we're going to start having me meet one-on-one with y'all for the next 2 weeks, starting next week. So if you have not started your individual game project, now would be a really good time. Hopefully you all have been working on those at least a little bit. I am not looking for a finalized project at this point. Just some things that I could check out and play or see, some visuals, some layouts, something that shows you're actually making forward progress on this, because I don't want it to come to week 13 right before Thanksgiving, and all of a sudden you haven't started yet, and you're going to try and put together a game in 3 weeks. Doable, but all your other classes are going to suffer at that point. I'm going to make it fair, I'm going to end up actually just randomizing who's going on what day, because I don't want it to be a rush to sign up for the last spot. No, right? No, I would never do it myself. Actually, I usually like to go first. Let's get the shit out of the way. But that's me. So yeah, so check, keep an eye on your emails, or probably, I'm just going to do it as a Canvas announcement. So please, if you don't have your Canvas notifications turned on, this is now the perfect moment in time to turn those on. Questions about this? Because of that, what I'm going to end up doing, and I'm going to kind of switch this for the remainder of the class. I'm going to switch from doing live coding here in class to doing a bunch of videos. Because I realize if I'm doing live coding in class, I can't control the speed at which I'm presenting it, which means that other important topic matters, like, let's have a conversation about level design, right? Like, I lose all that time and ability. So we're going to start switching to videos. So you'll either do those in class or outside of class. We're kind of covering a lot of the coding aspects. If there's something huge that I feel is super important for everyone, I'll find time to do it in class, but there'll be shorter ones in class. and then just videos at home so that we can have more time to chat about the other important aspects of game design other than just coding. So, questions about these things? All right, let me somewhere. 7. Swear I have this week's. There we are. The attendance sheet off over here. Change something? How do you do it? All right. So as I mentioned, let me show you my multiplayer game example that I threw together. Once again, I hope this is encouraging to you all on what. Oh, shite. Nothing like not checking your printing. I think I'm good. And finding your printer had an error. We'll be okay. So I decided that it would be important to show you an example of what I'm looking for in a multiplayer game. So I had to go to a college fair yesterday, and I was like, oh, people might like seeing, a game to play and see what game's all about. And then they didn't have power outlets for us, so it lasted 65 minutes before my laptop died. So needless to say, only a few people got to play it. Let me pop this. All right. Oops, of course not. We'll come back. Nope. Really? Downloads. Hopefully this will show up nice. Maybe. There we go. Good Lord. There, good luck. Lord, there we go. Okay, so before I start it, so this is the theme of the game is you are a parent alien, your babies are hatching. It's playable in 1 and 2 player. So 1 player, you're playing the alien mama. I don't know. Yeah, 2 player, you're playing both parents. You decide their gender, it doesn't matter. So you're trying to protect your babies as they try to make it to the warp gate in the center of the playing field, and a whole bunch of space troopers are trying to kill your babies, as they are like to do. So we've got player 1, player 2 scores. We have the number of baby saves, the number of babies that are still to hatch, and the number of babies that have been killed by the troopers. Look, it's a big mama and a big daddy. I have it set that 5 seconds pass before a game starts. There's a baby that's hatched. You have to stomp on this trooper, so you gotta hit him with your legs. Your babies have, I think it's 5 health. Depending upon the number of players, changes how many troopers spawn, how many babies spawn. Hey, I'm up to 12 already. The troopers actually have their animations working. I could not get, for the life of me, the animations to work on the big guys. It was acting like it wasn't there. So we have them walking, and then they go to a shooting. They're shooting a little fast, but that's fine. They're space troopers, right? Once the game comes to its final culmination, which will happen at some point, as you can see, I'm using basically everything that we did, was it last class when we went over this? I've got the multiplayer aspect. I've got the camera that is moving depending upon how far apart my players are. I didn't actually use a state machine for this. It's probably the piece that I would go back and change. But I had so few actual states that I was able to just do it in the code. Stop shooting my babies. And I think a state machine would have actually made the players a little bit more interesting in the decisions that they could make. I also just have them randomly picking an enemy, whether or not they can see them or not, it doesn't matter. And they just go into this shoot phase. Every once in a while, you get this like blip there. I have no idea how the hell that's going on, but it looks kind of cool. It's a bug. It's a feature, not a bug. Although these are all bugs, I guess. Okay, so we got to end game. I don't think there's anything left. Once the last baby has spawned, the troopers stop spawning in. Make sure there's nobody else. Going back, I would have changed, put a white background behind the scores so that it'd be easier to see, especially when you go all the way off. They're gone. But then I built into it a restart. So now I can restart the game and say, all right, let's just do one. That's it. Multiplayer, keeping score. The things I would add, that still need to add, is kind of an end state. So when the game does end, making a decision whether the players or the enemies win. So the troopers win. And that would be based off of, did you save more than were killed? And then I would have a game over, you lose, you win. And then the most winning player would be the player who's stomped the most enemies. That's about all the else I would add. The other thing I would add is a way to just exit. I got lazy and didn't get to there. Questions? This is about all I'm looking for from a multiplayer game. It doesn't need to be this exactly, obviously. Does not have to have models. I did not make these models. Let's just get really quick to the point. I purchased these because I own way too many assets from the asset store. I think I'm up to like 400 owned assets. The asset pack that this big guy came from, actually, they all came from the same one. It was like $400, but I got it for like $10. So I try and buy the big cool stuff as often as I can. Is this hopeful to see?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it intimidating? It's okay if it is. I'm just hoping it's not. Once again, this took me 7 hours, and honestly, about an hour and a half was trying to get the animations for the big guys to work. And they were just not, it was acting like the animations didn't exist, and so I thought it was like, screw it, I need to go back. So this is what I'm looking for in your groups. Obviously not exactly this, but it can be a version of this. This is literally, once again, just what we basically did in class, have gone over in class in the multiplayer, just adding a little bit more to it. So, all right. Any questions? All right. This back in. Good again. There we go. Okay. All right. Let's talk about UX testing. Apparently that's UX testing. Maybe. So, what is UX testing? Yes.
User experience is figuring out kind of if it's having someone test the position of the toy, like how would someone who didn't make the game or object in question use it.
Exactly. It's that idea of we begin to, because we're the ones that made the game, right? Like everything is obvious to us what to do. You hand it to someone else who's never seen it before. Can they actually figure out what to do? Do they understand what your first task is? Do they understand how to use your controller? All those aspects of it. So then, why do we do it? Kind of obvious, yeah.
But we need to make sure that the onboarding into our game is as smooth as possible. People are going to be kind of turned off with your game, and like they can't figure out how to actually play it.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to stop your game from being played is to make it impossible to play, right? I mean, that's just. And do you get money from an unplayable game? I will argue that there are a bunch of weird people that probably would be like, I could figure that out. I'm gonna try it, but you're not gonna make as much, right? And usually when you're doing this for like a bigger company, um, you should do it for any company you work for. UX testing should be continuously done and should be broken down into small groups, right? So we're just going to do a UX test on the controls for this game. Is it easy enough for you to understand if you're using an Xbox controller, what exact inputs are being used and why? If you're using keyboard mouse, is it intuitive? Does it make sense? Do you have a good enough tutorial that shows people how to do it? And then you can move on to, okay, we're gonna now UX test our first level, right? Can you figure out what you're supposed to do? Can you figure out where you're supposed to go? Can you figure out what you're supposed to collect if it's a collecting thing? What you're supposed to shoot if it's a shooting thing, right? And it goes all the way through the entire process. Sadly, most smaller companies skip that, usually get to the end. Problem with that is that it's much more expensive to go back and fix something at the end than to fix it during the process. And that's why you get buggy shit from like DLC or like companies put out their games and they're just riddled with bugs at the start, and then you have to download update after update after update. We won't name any specific games, but I'm sure a few come to mind. All right, so how do we do it? So UX testing, used to evaluate user friendliness of the game application. How user friendly is it? How easy is it for the user to know what to do? You're evaluating the ease and flexibility of using the game from the user's perspective. It's now no longer your perspective or your team's perspective. It's the end user at this point. So for that, you usually want to recruit people that fall into the demographic that you're going for. If you're making a game for 12-year-old girls, recruiting a bunch of 32-year-old guys, results may vary. So making sure you're getting the actual user's perspective. And it gives you time to discover problems, compare it against the benchmarks that you're expecting, and against other interfaces. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to make a new website, it's kind of like this. Does it work as good as that? Is it different? Is it better? All good things to know. So as part of the research, when you're doing UX testing, you want to collect demographic information. So these are the features and characteristics that define an individual. Doesn't 100% define you, but once again, so this is going to be things like age, right? Like you mentioned, if you're looking to make a game for 12-year-old girls, you should be looking in the age range of probably 10 to 16-year-olds, give or take, maybe 10 to 14. Girls or self-identified girls in the gender. Do you care about what occupation a person has? Probably not if you're going for a young kids game, because their occupation is all going to be student, unless you get some really precocious 12-year-old that's like CEO of my own company. I sell jewelry. You never know. They're out there.
Content creator.
Right. Social media influencer at 12. That's my new goal. What's their education level, right? If you're looking for something that's going to require someone to know a little bit more than what the average person might know, you might want to be testing whether or not that's a factor. How much gaming experience do they have? If someone's got a lot of gaming experience, they're probably going to pick that up really easy, right? So if I was making a mobile app for my kid, I would have a level of expectation of, you know about this much with gaming experience. You sit on your damn tablet all freaking day. So obviously you're going to probably pick this up quick. If I'm trying to alternatively make a game for older adults who don't really use technology all that much, like their gaming experience is probably going to be low. So if you're trying to do that, bringing in testers that have really high gaming experience is not going to give you the results or information. And that can be further broken down: hours spent gaming, what's their primary gaming device, game genre, how much money they spend on games. All these things really depend upon what you're trying to gather from your UX testing. What's that data? How do we make sense of it? You don't have to ask all these questions. These are just different ones that are there, and there are a ton more. All right, these have like an answer, right? Like your age is not a, I mean, you could do an age range, but for the most part, age is a number, gender is a entry. These are, just a quick answer ones with one specific thing. The problem that we often run into is how do we ask the right questions about what we're trying to study and what we study, right? So if I ask the question, did you like my game? It's a yes, no. You might get a, oh yeah, it was cool, right? But it doesn't really tell you anything. So what we can do from that is we can actually ask Likert. I always thought it was Likert. It's not, it's Likert. Scale questions. And these are going to get more of the attitude. As soon as I show them, you'll be like, I've seen those. I didn't know what the hell they were called, but I've seen those. So you're trying to get something more than just a yes or no. And because of that, you need to have an odd number because your middle spot needs to be ambivalence, right? Use it. Either yes, neither yes nor no. Maybe, kinda. So these are questions that you've seen in a bunch of things before, I would hope. So you got something like the game's interface is intuitive and easy to navigate. And how do you respond to that? I strongly disagree, I disagree, I neither agree nor disagree, I agree or strongly agree, right? So you're giving some more nuanced information than just like, what do you think of the game's interface? It was good. Okay, well, was it? I can understand the in-game's instructions. I would like to, I rate the difficulty, right? What should be a great question if you're trying to build, once again, a game for someone who's not a gamer? If all of the responses are, this game was very difficult, that might be problematic. You're probably going to want a variety of easy, very easy. There is a problem with Likert questions or Likert questions. Almost for they did tests on this, they did studies on it. The majority of your users and people taking your answer these questions almost never answer the extremes. So very difficult, very easy are going to be chosen less. Even if they've felt that it was very easy, you're going to mostly get easy. Which sucks, but that's just the nature of the beast. Yes.
Couldn't you make your, survey for your game kind of like a quiz, like objective based, rather than kind of just a scale of?
It depends upon. So yes, you can, but it really depends upon what you're looking for, right? So if it's quiz based, you're going to be looking for like specific Did you find the gold chalice that was hidden in the corner of the map, right? Did you complete the level? How long did it take you to complete the level? Were you able to use the controller, right? And those can be all visual, but while good, and I think should be a part, and we're going to actually get to some of those, it doesn't really tell you their opinions. And the opinions is what's going to honestly be the driving factor we find it. They might have found everything and still hate your game and found it really difficult, right? And so if you just are judging it based on did you find everything, did you complete all the tasks, it might really still not tell you the full picture. So this adds in the full picture. Other questions? Yeah.
Isn't it okay to just cut the middleman? Like neither, like get rid of neither hard or easy?
No, because you want, I mean, you could you technically could, but it would remove the people that are like, it really was neither hard nor easy, right? It was just really kind of in the sweet spot, right? I've actually taken a few quests with that, or questionnaires with that, and I've been like, I can't answer it because it was not easy. It wasn't difficult. It was really in the middle. So then I just get frustrated and annoyed. So that's why you want to have it there. Other questions? All right. So these are great, right? These give you some insights, but still not painting the full picture, right? We're getting closer. You can make some generalities, like if everybody, for the most part, said it's easy, very easy, like that gives you some information, right? But if you get like half of the people are easy and like half the people are difficult, like, ugh, right? That just doesn't really help much. You have to do at least a little bit more digging. And so that's where open-ended questions come in. These are questions that are worded in one way or another that make it so that you can't just answer it with one word, right? Because yes or no, while can give you some information, really doesn't like get into their psyche and really figure out what's going on. You can start with these, and what I'll do a lot is, yeah, did you enjoy this? Yes, no. Which, once again, if the answer yes or no, still doesn't get, it gives me a little bit, but doesn't really give me much. And then, to make it open-ended, if you did or did not like this, what were the things that led to that decision? Right? So if they're like, yeah, if all you're doing with is, did you like this? Nope. And then move on to the next question. They just didn't like it. But if you ask them the follow-up of what led you to not liking it? And the only problem that they had was that your control stick felt wrong to them, right? If all they're thinking is that when they push left, they went right, or we'll do a flying simulation, right? And that you've got it to the actual like stick commands, which are technically like, if you're used to that style of gameplay, it makes sense. But some people aren't, so they might want to be thinking they're pushing up to go up, when all intents and purposes they're going down. They might just have hated that. And that was the only reason they didn't like your game, right? And then you know from that now piece of information, okay, we're just going to build in a system where we can now have you choose up is up or up is down. It's not confusing at all. Right? But you can now do that, and now maybe that person would change their answer from like, did you like this game, from no to, yeah, I loved it. Like, I was able to change and have it set to the control scheme that I felt most comfortable with, and the rest of the game was amazing. But one little thing can result in a no. So you got to know what it is. So sometimes those, what specific aspects of the game interface did you find easy to use? If this was the one, and which ones are challenging, right? You could do this other one of like, did you find this to be easy or challenging? Yes. it say for like industry standard? How many questions do you usually think they want to ask? On average?
It depends upon what you're trying to find out. So,
Because I feel like too little, you won't find too.
right, it's a sweet
Too
spot.
much could end up.
Figure that. So, if you're asking someone to do this for free, we'll go to this level. If you are not paying someone, you want this to take less than 5 minutes. So, figure one open-ended question, maybe two, 5 to 10 demographic slash liquor questions is probably about the most you're going to get. If you're paying someone, and you're paying, not like $5, but you're paying, an actual like $20 for an hour worth of your time, you could definitely ask a lot more. But I still there is like questionnaire and survey fatigue, right? Like, it just gets like, oh my God, I can't believe there's like more questions.
Answer the question just for the sake of
Right. So trying to keep it as like tight as possible. You don't need to be like, and what do you do in your free time? And what are your hobbies? Like, unless that really is important, like, who gives a shit? If you're only testing, and this is why, like, test in bite sizes, right? Rather than testing the whole thing at once. You can ask a lot fewer questions. Yeah.
So if you bring candy, you can take 10 minutes, right?
Honestly, probably, right? Anything that feels like a value add to them doing this, or like they're actually getting something out of it, yeah, 100%. But figure you're going to have time that you're going to require them to play your game, which is probably going to take, depending upon what you're testing, 2 to 10 minutes. And then adding a questionnaire on top of it that's 10 minutes, you're starting to get close to that like 20 minutes to a half hour range, and that can be a lot of time for people. So use the open-ended questions sparingly. Open-ended questions on a written survey take more time. This is why a lot, if you do an industry, if you ever go into UX testing as part of your career, which is a definite direction you can go, you're going to also do an interview. And in the interview is where you're going to ask more of these questions. You're going to ask more of those open-ended because you want them, get them talking about it. But writing out a paragraph, you could get like one, maybe two good paragraphs out of me, and I just don't care anymore. So if you feel that yours is going too long, and if you were asking yourself these questions, you would be like, I had to tune out like half an hour ago. Like, it's way too long. All right, so I want to get you guys in groups. I guess 2 to 4, because y'all always tend to be a group. And we're gonna take like 5 minutes and work together to create a list of Likert style questions that you could ask your playtesters of your individual game projects. I know it's not going to be everybody's game is the same, but you can usually use a lot of these questions for lots of different styles. So take about 5 minutes and hashtag spoiler alert. I will be asking at least 1 to 2 people from your group to share at least one or 2 questions. So, and to make life easy, I'll put this back. All right, go ahead and get groups. I will set a timer for 5 minutes. 2, 3. Except for you guys, feel free to go 4 if you don't want to move.
Right on, yeah. Would you like to join us for questions?
It's like the course, initially, just feel much
No,
How many? Just as many.
Just go for it.
For our individual games.
Yep.
So,
They can be general that would cover both of your games. take advantage of this time. You will be asked to do this as part of one of your assignments, so maybe you'll just finish that part of your assignment with this.
Probably like write this down.
Yeah.
Zero to 10, so you have a middle.
That's good. That's good. That's good point.
0 would be really painful to see on that though.
I hate it.
So bad,
It's your
not even giving you the.
It's basically just like how was it?
Yeah,
That's what you had to make, like some questions that like one is the good.
yeah. So you
So
feel.
you feel a little bit better.
Granted, I hate when they do that when I'm taking surveys because when they suddenly flip it, then I might accidentally put in the wrong answer, and I'm like, you are so frustrating.
Yes, no, exactly. You don't want to.
It's like if you do it, make it obvious.
Pick
at
pick a
least.
scale.
Yeah.
And scale.
Something about this guy.
And if you're gonna change your scale, make it damn obvious so that way people can stay you.
Yep. You don't want to upset people taking questionnaires and surveys.
So mine has like the space, right? The space is gonna ask you riddles too. So I guess the question I got is, did you like the riddles?
Yeah.
Or did the riddles engage you? Did the riddles add to your production or something? Yeah, how
Like if you have story, was the story easy to follow? Like did the objectives make sense?
the game was clear. Hard or objectives?
Right now we have how obvious the objective is. And then I would rate the difficulty of the puzzle. Well, just because that's mine, like I'm gonna be trying to. Obviously, I'm getting all my because someone felt like there was enough content. Like, yeah, the amount of time it took to play. Did it feel like
Doing stuff, or did it feel like you just repeating the same?
yeah, like did it feel meaningful or
Yeah.
whatever?
If you bother your mind to buy this game, you fail.
Did the game feel repetitive?
Are there any sections?
Busy.
Did the game ever feel?
Stands
That would be good for me because
Yeah.
gross to do the same thing over and over again.
Mine is gonna feel repetitive because it's a road again.
Oh, I'm very aware that mine's gonna be repetitive. It's basically a walking simulator.
I mean, it's a horror game, right? If you die,
Yeah, it's a horror.
yeah, if you die, guess what? Yeah.
Can I use it?
DJ
Can I use it good?
Is it a get you? You just have two options. No, and I peed a little. Those are the two surveys.
So you literally just have an option of repeat a little.
I know. She's doing a horror game. For a horror game, it was like for a horror game, it's like did I get ya? And there's two options.
Did I
no,
get
and
ya?
I
No,
peed a
I
little, and
peed.
that's it.
That's it. Those are your
Do only two options.
You need one more. Gotta be an odd number. I only slightly fell out of my chair.
Yes, no, and I peed a little.
Yes, no, you know.
Eric, how do you know when I wanted Olsen? Like, do you know Olsen? Kim said, the guy coming in.
Don't know.
You don't know? Kim said you're the one who invited him.
Sure self didn't.
And I'm just curious because he's my old math teacher, so it was really weird when I saw that he was coming in.
You're like, what?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he used to teach at Viridian Tech, and then he left to be a principal, and then started doing board game stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I heard his name. I'm like,
You're like, what? Yeah, no, not responsible. All right. Finish writing down your last one, or talking about your last one, and in a minute we're gonna go around.
Yeah, one of my questions is just gonna be like, how are the vibes?
With the vibes?
Like that.
All right. Group in the back. One of your liquor questions.
I would say I would rate the difficulty of the controls as, and then it goes from like strong to ugly or easy to difficult.
Sure, that works. One more from your group. Doesn't have to be.
One of them we had was how likely are you to play again?
Oh,
Likely or very unlikely?
sure. That's a great question, right? Your goal is to get someone to want to play multiple times. I mean, I guess unless it is one of those games that truly is a play once experience, but you better charge an arm and a leg for that. Great questions. This group.
Are your objectives clear?
Sure. So, and then levels of clarity for your options. Sure.
And then
One more.
um well did you feel like there was meaningful content for the gameplay time?
Sure. Yeah. Maybe.
I was trying to word better, but it's basically
Yeah.
for the amount of time played.
Right.
Was the story good?
Yeah, and then you're gonna want to come up with a that could be more of a yes no. So you want to really figure out what version of answers you're gonna attach to it. Um, but you probably just change the wording just a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. This group.
One question we had was, would you pressure your friend into getting this game on sale and play for 3 hours and then never playing again? Or would you play or recommend this game to someone else?
Yeah.
Because we were talking.
Once again, like think about like what answers your range is going to be because that could easily just be a yes no.
Yes, no.
But you could just slightly word these to like add that, or just make sure that your answers are not just yes.
Yes, sir.
One more.
Yeah. Was the objective of the game understood from the
Sure.
like if you have like maybe like a billboard right when you start the game, you got explaining the instructions or maybe
Sure.
on the start menu.
And that can be a good one to a degree. Use your data collection, which we're going to talk about. How much time did they spend in front of that billboard? Right? Were they in that range for like 2 seconds? They just ran past and then they're like, yeah, the objective sucks. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
You didn't read the damn objectives. I can tell. There was not like speed readers take 30 seconds to read that. Like you didn't get it. So yeah, 100%. Were you two a group? Okay, you guys in the back.
Was the feedback, so like hit markers and registration of the game clear and easy to understand?
Sure. One more.
The game kept me engaged, and I was kind of thinking that like the problems free.
Sure. Yeah, you can kind of be like levels of engagement side of the answers too. Nice, I like that one, right? Because you want to make sure you want them to play a game and stay engaged, which then is going to make them want to play more.
We had the environment was well laid out and easy to navigate.
Sure. Great.
And then we had the story contributed positively to the gameplay.
I like those ones. All right. Not screw it.
During the experience, how confident did you feel about your sense of direction, like where you wanted to go, what
Sure.
you wanted to do?
Yeah.
And then we said, did your experience appear to be bug free, but that could probably be just rephrased differently to.
Yeah, you could rephrase it to what like how many bugs did you notice during the gameplay?
Some.
0, which or some, or like that could be even a number.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they're not like circling to like
10
300 plus or whatever your highest level is.
That's a lot of bugs.
Right? I mean, that almost becomes a game in itself if you can make just a game actually still sort of work with that many bugs. All right, those are great questions. All right.
They're not bugs, they're features.
Yeah, they are now all features. All right. So working in your same group, or let's actually talk about this first. I thought I had actual slides. So this data collection is what we've been talking about, right? So we can ask these questions. These are all great. These really get into
the person's opinions, their feelings, experience with what you're doing, but it doesn't paint the full picture, like we were talking about, right? Do you understand the objective of or how well did you understand the objective? From very well to not well at all, right? And you get an answer of not well. Well, why was it not well? You could ask further questions, or you could actually gather data from the game itself. And so you could put something in the environment that registers when you enter the space, where you could read the billboard that tells you about the objectives, and then when you leave the zone, records it. So now you have timestamps on either end, and you know how long they spent there. If you've got really easy objective that you feel is really easy, and it's really short, cross the bridge and go through the gate, right? And it's really damn obvious because you can see the bridge and the gate on the other side, right? If you have someone that's sitting there for 45 seconds reading that billboard, that tells you something, right? That gives you some like, is there a personal disability in play, like some form of a cognitive, which is fine, but maybe that gives you some greater understanding. And if you ask some form of a disabilities question because you're trying to explore certain things, those can corroborate that information. And if you have someone, you have huge detailed information, you need to talk to the goat across the bridge and then go into the island and murder the monkey, and then you have to collect the golden bananas from like da 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 da, right? And someone once again goes in 2 seconds, they've never played the game, but I got this. And then you ask them about the objectives, like, I have no clue what to do. Like, well, yeah, because you didn't spend the time. How much game time are they playing, right? If you just let them be willing to just play, how much time are they willing to spend on the game? So you can record when your game starts, see when the game stops. Yeah.
I also think it's important to examine all the facets of your game because while it may seem like the simple objectives are like very obvious, there's other things in your game that could be obstructing such simple objectives, like for example the scenery, or maybe they are colorblind.
Sure.
And it blends into the environment, or maybe you have stuff that looks like the objective but isn't the objective.
Exactly. And all those things are great. So you can have the objective is to go find the golden bananas, right? But they're not or the bronze bananas, so they're more red, right? If you ask someone if they're colorblind at the beginning and they have trouble finding the red bananas, that tells you something you might want to change. If you have gold bananas, there are some levels of colorblindness that would have issues with yellow, but not as common. But you have other things in your scene that kind of could look like golden bananas, but aren't the golden bananas. You can actually track how many times do they touch the wrong thing in your environment, or you could just track what the hell they touched. Every single thing that they walked up to, and maybe you have a key command that's grab and take, right? How many things did they go up to and hit the grab take button? And how many of those were right and how many of those were wrong? So you can track all these pieces of data just through the gameplay alone, which means you're getting more information. You're getting that like detailed, non-opinionated information, right? You can't argue with, dude, it took you 3 minutes and 27 seconds to complete this, because I measured from the start to the end. Well, it took a nap in between. Okay, well, that's, beside the point. I can't help that. But this gives you that solid data to be able to use to continue to figure out what was going on. Questions about this? Does this make sense? We're going to go over in a minute how to do this. All right, stay in your groups, or if you just came in, join a group.
Uh, oh, take another, we're gonna go another 5 minutes. Create a list of different data points that you could collect in your game that are not opinions, right? They're cold hard facts. And go.
You remember those steps or units there?
Yeah, what's the average amount? Where in the map they found it? It's like, oh, we're not using this in the map. It's like, okay,
Bring out my notes.
I started.
List of data points you can collect in games.
They did not put on this one in.
Yeah, I mean,
You could do an item usage because
item usage.
because if you have power ups, you want to know if someone maybe needs like power ups are getting used to what power-ups are getting used.
Aim points, like specific spots that,
Like consistent death points.
yeah, you can check that out.
Sometimes that on that what kind of thing did I do?
Yeah, because I mean, it could be enemies, it could be pitfalls, it could be an enemy, it could be a puzzle. Like if I'm if I have my Sphinx, like give players riddles, and no one ever literally figures out a riddle, I'm like, okay, well, I need to change my riddles.
Is there a way to see
Yeah.
whether or not they like jerk the mouse?
Yeah, you would just track mouse positions and you could track then distance mouse move.
You would.
I'm not exactly sure the code to do it, but I know you could.
Well, you'd want to do you would want to track the position of the mouse and the amount of time it took for it to reach it, and basically check the difference of how
You
quickly.
you could just track mouse position or distance from save current mouse position. Then next frame, what is now the mouse position? Get the distance between the two in that frame, and figure it out that way.
Basically just have a metric for like how much like when you record it.
For me, choose the power up choice. Because like if someone picks an power up, I'm not.
How much P did you go?
I need you to put up a heart rate monitor. I need you to hook up a heart rate monitor in order to play this game. Good luck.
Be an interesting study to do though. Does the fact that you hook up the heart rate monitor change their expectations?
There's a lot of people who will play horror games with heart rate monitors attached, and it's kind of wild seeing just like what actually like gets their heart rate going. Because sometimes they'll be totally fine through most of it, and then something will happen and it'll spike.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to look at.
Yeah.
There's
Well, it does it, but does the spike change because they're putting it on, expecting those things
Yeah.
versus just like, hey, have
And like
hey,
how much of it's
hey,
placebo.
put in the spot, yeah. So.
Right.
And if I had to play starting value, the heart rate monitor things would get intense. Trying to come back.
Because the cute little puppies.
Yeah.
Be back with the vines when it hits 150 in the morning.
You're running back with the lights to get into my bed at 1:50 a.m.
Josh made a funny joke that once you like get married, saying that you're like about to just like sleep in bed and you're screaming drinking for your life. And then you pass out on the floor
Pass out
from the
right
bed
in front of
between
me.
2 a.m. And they just like you can get in bed and your character's just lifeless on the ground, not responding.
Yeah.
And the guy dead pose just in front of the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Most of the setup is I have first the story board scene, right? Then there's animation off.
Or they just
Then
like give you
after some, it
All right, one more minute.
UI text. My
Item
item
usage,
the
beam
game
points,
points,
power up
leads
choice.
to another scene that is just for the controls, right? So that way it's the tutorial, but you kind of need stuff. And then when they're ready, they can press another button prompt, right? So you have like specialized scenes that just let us that's this thing,
Read
you
their
know,
thoughts.
Hey, read the thought.
and then they press another button, and then they're actually in.
That's not gonna go. Looks like
So everything like that can be handled in just the scenes thing. Right? And then when we create that scene where you have a 0, 1, 2, 3, and just like scene load this number. Yeah.
that's just how games work.
Yeah, to finish it.
Times when you explode.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was dated.
Anya, you could have them hook up a
Oh, yeah, it's like 5 pieces of
and if they ever like gas through
Okay, and where's
the screen.
Oh, it's that.
All right, write down that last one.
where you can press
Yeah, it's really hypersensitive. There's some
where you can press
specific
whatever.
games that are like.
We'll start over on this side this time.
Be in
What are
isolation.
two different metrics?
Times the player likes the game. It would work for a short term.
Yeah, continue. Yes. Yeah.
And then they die.
You just have to hide.
Yeah.
And if they hear you, like, see they die.
Sure. Yeah,
Way to
those are
structure
great.
because they'll go to like.
We go in the back.
Record number of times failed at a puzzle.
Sure. Figure out like what is that strong metric of like how tough was this puzzle? One more.
How long did it take for the player to interact with the free ability that they have?
Interesting. Yeah. No, it's great.
Yeah, so time from ability acquired to ability use.
Yeah.
Just expanding on that.
Sure. Exactly. Is there an ability that no one ever uses? Right? I play some stupid shooter game and I can choose from all these skills and there's seriously like 6 or 7 that are only worthwhile, the rest are just shit. So, right? So maybe I get the crap ones ahead, but then I never use them again after. So that would be good.
We had like objects interacted with most.
Sure.
And then we had like the distance the player is from the object when they try to interact with it.
Sure. Are they trying to access it halfway across the map or right up next to it? No, that's great.
We were talking about our multiplayer games, so we talked about how long the match lasted
Sure.
in general,
Yep.
which track maybe how easy it is to actually win or how quick it is to lose.
Yeah.
And then in our game we have a setup portion where you set up pieces, so we can say how many pieces were placed each round.
Sure.
Because we have a limited number of pieces you can set up, and once you put one down, that takes away from like you're kind of like
You have like a pool of points, and then each piece is worth certain numbers. Yeah.
So
Are you going for the big army of little low level ones, or the?
Are you being more brutal?
Yeah, I have 3 pieces, and they cost me all the points. No, those are great, right? That's going to tell you a lot about what your players are doing. What do y'all come up with?
I think like time taken just from start to end.
Sure. Right, you don't want if you're all of a sudden a level that you think should take a player about 3 minutes takes 10 to 15. Well, or vice versa, right? Oh shoot! I didn't realize I left a little spot open that would allow them to skip through and miss half a level.
Yeah. Pain points. So like, if someone's dying to a specific phase of the boss or a specific enemy kind of attack,
Sure.
or
Like idle time in one spot.
a riddle that they're just like sitting there like it should be simple, but they're sitting there for like 5 minutes and you're like, that's like 2 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, those are all great, right? All right, last group.
So we did like save and load checkpoints, I guess, so to see if the player felt the need to like save it.
Sure. Are they actually taking the time to save the game, or like, I got this?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
oh shit. Which would be my usual response.
I do it anyway.
It's better.
And then we did like ammo use.
Sure. Right. Are they just blasting through every clip that you give them, or are they on infinite? Do they think they're on infinite ammo and they're not, and then they run out, and now there's not enough bullets to actually kill the boss? That would suck. All right, those are great data collection things. So before we get into how do we do data collection, great, we've collected all this data, right? Like, that's neat. We have opinions, we have liquor answers to those. We have demographic information. Woohoo! Who cares, right? It doesn't mean anything until you actually evaluate it, because that's when you actually can be like, oh, I can see the problems. You're probably starting to see the problems as you're going back over the data, but you don't really get there until you actually do it. And there are much more complex ways to go through the data analysis. We are not doing the complicated ones. We're just going to go with the basics, descriptive statistics. And because it's easy and it doesn't require math, and I don't like math. So, for like if age, right? Something that has a set number. We can just descriptively state that the study participants had a mean age or the average age of, right? So add all of the ages together, divide by the total number of participants, gives us this number. But you always want to add to it the range, right? So the average might be 95, but maybe you had a 13-year-old and the rest of your participants were like 100 or higher, right? You can get to a really high number, but it doesn't account. If you don't give me that bottom and top, I might not know. So that's a great way of doing it. A lot of you talked about time to do something, right? You gathered that information. You do the same thing. The average time it took users to complete some task, right? What is the task you're measuring? Completing the first objective, completing the level, going to the next checkpoint, whatever it is, was this many seconds. You could still add a range to it. It's probably not going to give you as much unless you really have something like super wide discrepancies, like that level where you're like, oh, it should take about 3 minutes to complete this, and you have someone pop in at 15. Or it should take about 10 minutes. You have people that are ranging between 2 minutes and 35 minutes. Your average might end up being right where you want it to be, but you have some huge outliers. So why are those the case? Percentage of users that can complete a task, right? What's happening to complete the task? This percentage of users are able to complete the task successfully. Error rates. The lowest errors of someone's picking up the wrong item, right? They think it's the golden bananas, but it's really the hippo statue. I don't know, right? We can track that, and so we can say that the lowest error rate was 7. That people made 30 errors on average. But this is indicating that these tasks were successfully completed with minimal errors. Don't use that if you're averaging 30 errors, because that task obviously is having some problems. And then, so that's where you would use the highest error rate, right? They were having some problems with this, and this is what we think maybe. What these lead into is you give this data, you go back over it, and then you go like, okay, we think that this was the problem. Or, hey, could you reach back out to these participants and specifically go, hey, we'd really appreciate we found some really interesting results in our data as we processed it. We noticed this. Would you mind just talking to us for another 5 minutes, explaining like what your experience with this was, right? It gives you that time and ability to make those changes. If you're doing a Likert scale, users were asked about what you ask them about, and what percentage indicated what level, right? So if it's the difficulty, I found what was your experience with the difficulty of the game? So users are asked about the difficulty of the game, and
25% indicated it was either it was easy. And so in that case, what did I say, 25%? So 13% said it was always easy or was easy, and 12% said it was very easy. Right, so you break down, you can combine those two groups, because once again, people don't report the extremes. So it's perfectly good to combine those top two or bottom two together. How frequent were specific usability issues or controller issues, right? Objective problems. This comes into play usually like open-ended questions style. 2 of 25 players report experience a usability issue with the jump feature, whatever it is, right? Or using the keyboard to shoot. All right. Questions about the descriptive statistics? I will be posting these slides. They're not up there yet. So when it comes to writing up your evaluation of your project, these will be here for you to reference back to. Please do so. And don't forget, when you're going through this part of your individual game project UX testing, don't forget to do the descriptive statistics. Quite often I'll just get assignments turned back in that are, here's my raw data, but you don't describe it for me. This is important stuff. All right. So why are we doing this? Why do we go with today? The UX testing evaluation requirement. So as part of your final individual game project for the class, you'll be required to conduct UX testing and evaluation. You need to create your questionnaire. And then you need to have some people play your game. We'll probably state that you need to, I'm going to try and figure out how to connect you with freshmen the easiest way, most disruptive, or least disruptive way. Because it'll be good for them as well. So you have UX testing and the evaluation. You need to have 2 demographic questions. So like age, occupation. Please don't ask occupation unless like you're testing non-students, if everybody's a student. Age, gaming background, right? Whatever it is. 3 Likert style questions, 1 open-ended question. So this is what you're going to have them fill out. Your game, which we're about to go over, needs to grab 4 pieces of information. Time to get from the start to the finish. How long did they actually play the game for? Especially if it's like it was a bullet hell game where you're trying to live the longest you can. What was the highest score they got? How long did they spend looking at the billboard of information or in the tutorial? How far did the mouse move when they did a jump from a jump scare, right? Questions about this? This isn't due until your individual game project, which is finals. So you've got some time, but I also wouldn't recommend waiting to get this done as soon as you can, because you need, I didn't put on here, you need to at least have 5 people play a game and go through this. Easiest ways to do these, just go to Google Forms and create this as a form. Super easy. Then you can just be like, hey, play my game. And, hey, play this, you play this form. Yeah.
Well, how you do the game data part in Google Forms?
You don't. So the game data we're going to go over, and I'll show you exactly how that's going to come in. That's literally collected on your computer. So you're going to want them to play it on your computer for the most part. If you have them not, you're going to need them to send you the data file that's being collected. But yeah, that just automatically says as part of the gameplay. Question? Cool. Just making sure. Any other questions about UX testing, evaluation, descriptive statistics? All right, let's take a break. I don't know who the hell's foot this is, but this has got to be a serial killer. That's all I'm saying. There's just a random foot sitting here. Let's take 5 minutes because we do have a bunch to go through today. So go ahead, stretch, get a drink, whatever. Be back at 10:22.
to the AI didn't mean break through the wooden chair.
Right? I know, like, we'll get into the other break picture because it spits out 4 at a time. So I put 2 of them on for my breaks.
I just noticed.
And she's so happy about it. Like, definitely serial killer. How are you doing today?
Are you Mistborn Era 1 or 2?
I'm not too
Fair.
just finished.
Okay, let me start opening up. Unity.
It's a good one.
Ah! All right.
Yeah, Mistborn is good. I'm a fan. Mistborn Era 2, I honestly didn't think I would like it, but it's pretty good.
I tried asking.
Okay.
Dances, competitions. He's over
Well,
competitions.
they are wildly different.
Yeah, like you can't compare the two and be like, oh, this is good.
One is a lot more
Sure. And she's not doing anything.
trusty, as you can find like
Essentially, we were doing.
I'm just gonna real quick. I paused my recording, so I'm just gonna real quick go over what I just did for the recording. So I'll give an extra minute. So for those in the recording, I already got there. What you're gonna want to do is go into your game that we've been building in class. We're gonna go to our scenes folder. You're gonna click on your sample scene, Control D to duplicate, and then change the name of the scene to data scene. Double click on that. That's going to open it up here. We're going to add 3 cubes to our environment. We're going to change the Y height and position to 1, the scale to 2. We're going to duplicate it 3 times and then move them into your environment about like so. We're going to name them black cube, red cube, aqua cube. And then we're going to go into our materials. Select one of your current materials, Control D to duplicate it, change the name to Aqua, and then come up and change your color to an Aqua, and then drag the materials onto the cubes. And then go ahead and make a new tag by clicking on tag on one of your game objects, add tag, plus symbol, gives you a new one, type in color. All right, we're all caught up. So then selecting your black, red, and aqua cubes, you can click on the top one, hold shift, click on the bottom. You can do them one by one, but because all of them have the shared components, we're just going to then click tag and select color. Yep, so if you don't have the tag, just click on the arrow, add tag, come into the tags and layers, click the plus, which is going to give you a new tag, type in color for that. Then sadly, it doesn't just automatically like, oh, I created this new tag for this specific object, but let's not assign it because that would be dumb. So you have to go back in and select the objects and change the tags. But because we're doing it to all the same object, you can just do it all at once, which is nice. Okay. We want to, since we're going to use the ability for shooting to cause this to happen, we're going to go into our scripts and open up the bullet collider. Because we're going to need to modify the bullet collider to now say like, oh, cool, I hit a pillar that has a color on it. I should do something different. So for this, we're going to go ahead and add 2 variables. So add them to the top, one of which is going to be a private. We're going to do an array for the first time. So game object, and then open, closed, straight brackets, which signifies array. What?
Which script is this one?
This is on the bullet collider. So once again, starting array, it's going to be private game object, open, close, straight brackets, and we're going to call it walls. And then we're going to do, I close the straight bracket. So that's calling back to what number we're referencing. We're going to get the component, the renderer. I love autofill. Sometimes right. So we're going to put renderer dot materials equals M. So for every wall in our scene, it's going to go through and assign the color as soon as either when, at this point, when the bullet hits the pillar. It's just going to auto switch everything. Eventually, we'll add this to Jada. All right. Let's do this real quick. So we need to get the walls. So we're setting up an array. What we're going to do in on enable, and I'll just throw it at the top. We want to check and see if the array of walls has nothing in it. So as long as there is nothing in our walls array, we're going to go through and say that walls is going to equal, we're going to make it easy on us. We're going to do walls equals game object dot find game objects with tag. Make sure it's the plural version of objects. So find game objects with tag, and we're going to then enter it in as wall because that's very creative. So when the bullet first spawns, it's going to go and grab every wall that's out there and put it in just in case we actually have a collision. So it's going to add it to the array of objects. All right, and then we want to scroll down to our on collision. We're going to add an if else or else if, I guess, put it in the right order. collision, oops, lower C collision, dot collider, dot tag equals color like we just set up. So we're looking to see, is this item that I've collided with one of our pillars? And we're going to know that by looking at the tag color. Then we're going to use a switch statement, so switch. And we're going to base it on collision dot collider dot game object dot tag. So we want to know what tag, oh no, sorry, not dot tag, dot name. We already have the tag. The name's going to tell us what we need to know. And so from here, we're going to have case. One case is going to be black cube. Make sure you put those in parentheses. And then remember with cases, it's a colon. And we're going to create a, I think we already had it. Let me just double check. Yeah, perfect. We're going to call to our change wall color function. So we'll do change wall color. And remember, we need to pass in a material. And we have our materials already created right up here with our private materials. So we have the black, red, and aqua. So all we need to do is we'll pass in for the black cube, the black. And that. Remember to do break to finish it. That's all we need to do with this. We'll do case red cube. Make sure that you're spelling these exactly the way you spelt them in the environment on the game object. Otherwise, we're going to have what? Otherwise, we're going to have problems. Colon, change wall color again. This time we'll change it to red. And break. And our final case, aqua cube. Almost sounds like a superhero. You have been saved by the aqua cube. I kind of would rather get saved by someone else, I think. Not to hate on Aqua. I love the color, but like Aquaman. I guess we have Aquaman. So poor Aquaman. Okay, and then what we want to do, right? So we've set this up to pull from our pool of bullets. So we just want to make sure that we're doing our return object to pool, so that when it hits it, it doesn't just bounce around and go on forever. We want to just have it hit once and then go back to the pool. Okay. Let's go back to Unity. Let's go to our walls in the hierarchy, which we have a few. We can click on one of them. And then we're going to want to change a tag. So we're going to add another tag. So click on the down arrow, add tag. And since we just referenced it, we're going to click on the plus and then, or go away on mine, wall. Once again, select all your walls and change the tag for them to wall. That way we're able to get the reference. It's going to be able to pull everything that we need to pull, verify that what I'm shooting is what I'm shooting. All right. So, that one minimized. So the trick is now that we have that on our bullet. So if we go to the prefab and we select our bullet, you can see that it's looking for the materials. So normally you would then click on your material and drag black to black. Oh, is it going to actually work? Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. So apparently it's deciding to work today. Let's just make sure that that actually stays. It did. Cool. If for some reason it's saying it's a problem, yes. You did you? So the serialized field, private material, black, red, aqua, and you saved the script. Do you mind going and taking a gander? Addie's on her way. Because when you do save this, it should update the script on the bullet. And then we can just, we don't want to do it for one in the scene. We want to do it in the one on the prefabs. So that's going to call to that. If there's a problem with it, like if it won't load, so there are some things that we'll get to that is problematic. We can't just, the reason we have an array of walls is because we can't just drag in those walls to the component here. So if you ended up having to add something that was giving you problems, you can always bring the prefab into your environment, right click on it. They finally allowed for this to happen. You can click on prefab and then unpack completely, which takes it completely out of a prefab. So then you can do whatever you need to do to it and put it then back, but realize doing that. So you'll delete the one from your prefab folder, you're bringing the new prefab, but you got to make sure you put it everywhere that it's being affected. So like in this, you'd have to go back into player and to pool. Yes. Yep.
That one, and then can you scroll down to the walls where you saved the color?
Oh.
I thought it was a little different.
So.
Yes.
Yep.
Just so we can compare.
100%. So thankfully with this, it worked on that one. But if you do ever have that, or if you need to add some weird stuff to it, like you have that ability now to actually unpack a prefab, which you did not previously have. So it's kind of a nice feature to it. We've got all that done. We can just save it. While they're getting that figured out, it's perfect timing because we're going to hit play. And as long as everything goes according to plan, we'll go up, grab the gun, shoot the pillar, and all the walls are now all red. So if we look all the way around, it's all red. It's amazing. What are you complaining about? That's fine, no matter. That's fine. For which? Right, so if you go to your prefab of the bullets, you're just going to go then click on that, then click on materials and drag the materials to the corresponding colors. Since my little robot's still apparently having some problems on this, I'm just going to turn him off. He doesn't need to be on anyway. That'll just save any error codes. Did anybody shoot and not have their walls change color? Grab control.
Well, my black one worked, the other two.
Make sure that your I can come look in a second, but make sure that the way these are exactly written matches with the bullet collider. Does it say something about stop? Yeah, just turn off your robot. Just said, take a vacation, buddy. Just go to in your hierarchy, to the body in your hierarchy.
empty and then build inside.
Looks exactly
But
like
but because the script is apparent, I needed to add
all right. Anybody else having issues having it turn red? So you got blue too. That's actually great. That's good. So let's go to your strip. Let's just go to Unity. Bullet bar, bullet. Or sorry, bullet pretty fast. So make sure you're
no, that could be a cast.
Yeah. It doesn't even display as nice. Yeah, wait.
No, yeah. We've done it. It's just lighting with colored blocks.
that's not making sense. Go back.
You're lighting with the colored text, and then you're switching
At least every time that
based on
they say they double drops, it's like just saying there's like these are just weird. Like sometimes they'll be like wider than others. Sometimes they're supposed to be outside and just like some ships just kind of connective tissue that's in there.
Yeah.
It's
At least you're getting what sort of. I'm not sure why we're having that. What other issue?
we're having the same issue.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like
What's that?
well, it's nice when it's usually it's just but sometimes you know people put there was a guy that sometimes that was he would like talk about like how he was pretty like trails and it seems like he's really like dreaming around this like super nice guy. But it's nice to see him, but yeah, he's got so much scar tissue going on. Yeah. He's like so understanding of people like try to look his tag. Be like the first draw ever going in, he'll be like the nicest guy. He's like sitting to fail.
why is
I have wild.
your bullets tagged as walls? That's wise.
I was at Skin's house.
Yeah, but then you
Oh, really? Yeah.
Your bullet streak that should not have.
Yeah, I was thinking with full on.
Oh, so you like
Actually, I was gonna talk to her today.
so all your bullets are
Her
white.
husband works with my dad now. Oh, Sean? Yeah. Yeah, she lives yesterday. I was like, he and my dad were talking.
I don't think my
They
bullets
said
tagged as
he was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to see her blood.
yeah, it's gonna get untagged. It's right. His bullet was tagged as wall.
Well, it's a good sign.
Actually,
I'm more than satisfied. Rob and
Yeah.
For the first time
How you go?
since I got
I wonder if you got Alpha One outside of reprimanded. Like in here.
since the accident, yes, I have.
Are you in the jail? You look like you're in a work list.
I'm just trying to visualize.
As I want to do.
did you get your
I'm really big into horrors. It's my jam. I
Make
love
sure
it today.
on the screen how it looks in my head.
That's real. That's unreal. I think what's gonna help you the most is looking into shaders and post processing.
go to your script where you're changing what
Because if you have a certain like high fidelity view that you can't accomplish with just the base models of what you have, then you could apply shaders to it to make them feel more realistic. And that's not how it's supposed to see. But
I don't know. Because I not figured it out.
Because you're trying to, your launch point is like the target. So if you put that launch point inside the object, it actually has together.
yeah.
Showed it now, so now my walls.
So
I think what you got is cool.
it shows
Well, the coolest thing
we're
about
at
Minecraft
now.
House, like I'll never be able to like actually do what I want to. My Minecraft houses are purely like functional. They're so much. You can see the Minecraft house I have in my final games. It is interesting and very viewpoint, but I liberated. Well, this is what I call liberating. But I basically did a bunch of torches all around my house to make it.
Not to brag, but I can be I'm a little bit of a good builder in Minecraft.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, my house contains. Oh, I want you guys to know. I am not good at Minecraft. I'm curious.
As long as the block is off, one of them working.
Yeah.
Is it named properly?
So as long as that was working, trees can keep moving around the block.
just and then it's like so they're all the same and then it won't work.
And then, yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's closer to like the actual view that I want. So yeah. Yeah. So that already has and this is just the basic. These are just basic aspects of what he has in store. So superpowers. The idea is you're playing as a spider.
So as long as it's doing something, we can work. Then it's just fine tuning at that point. All right, I think everybody's at least got one of their pillars working. Some have got all of them. Some, I don't know why the hell things are going the way they are. Welcome to live demos. So we need to now get to the data part. So let's set this up for saving. We're going to come back to Unity. We're going to create a new skit. We're going to go into our scripts. We're going to create a new script. New C# skit. And we're going to call this one game data. Game data is going to be pretty small. All we're going to do for this is we're going to have a variable, private material, like we've done a bunch already today. And we're going to call it wall color. So this is going to track what color the walls are. So what we need in this, we're just going to remove update and start because we don't need them. We're going to have two public functions. Both are first one's going to be a void, and we're going to call it set wall color. And we're going to, like previously, we're going to pass in a material so that we can say, hey, I've changed the wall colors. You should pay attention to this. It's pretty cool. And here's the color I set it to. And then we're just going to set our variable wall color to M. the material color that was passed in. And then we're going to do one more public, but this is going to be a public string. We want to return a string. And we're going to call the function save wall material. It's going to be red underlined until we give it a return because it's saying it's a string. It needs to return a string. So what we're going to do, we're going to temporarily create a temp string. So we're just going to put it in here as a string. I'm going to call it temp color, which is the wall color. So we're changing this to a string. So it's wall color, right? We're taking our variable. We need to change it to a string. And normally this is where you would stop off. The trick with this is if we stop here, the entire string is the color, so aqua, and then it's going to have a space, and then it's going to go into parentheses, and it's going to be Unity material, which is a lot of information and data that we just don't care about. So what we're going to do is after the toString, we're going to add another period, and we're going to do split. We're going to split our string on the space. So we're going to do open quotes, space, close quotes, close the bracket, straight brackets, 0. So what this is going to do is it's going to only save what comes before the string, but comes before the space in the string. We don't care about whatever comes afterwards. All we care about is the first part. And then to make it go away, we're going to return temp color. That takes care of our red squigglies. And so go ahead and save that. Make sure you got it saved. We're going to come back to our bullet collider. We're going to, at the top, add a variable. We're going to call it private game object. And we're going to call it GC for game controller. In our on enable, we want to start it out with now GC is equaling capital G game object dot find controller, because we're going to attach the game data to our controller. Why are you complaining? Bless you.
Was it controller or game controller?
Depends upon how you had it set up. Why are you? However it's worded in your scene. So mine is controller somewhere here. Why are you complaining? Oh, ha ha ha. We don't actually have to do this. It's in here. Why? We'll just delete that. It was not in my other code. So it's in here for this one. We already have the private game object controller. Or if you don't have that one, add it. And then controller equals game object dot find controller. It's already there. It was not on the one I used last night.
We also don't need that out of private GC.
Yeah, we don't need that. Once again, you don't need that as long as you have the controller one. And so then what we're going to do, we're going to scroll back down to our on collisions. And what we can do in each one of the cases, we want to do controller get component game data. So we're going to call that. We're going to add it to it in just a minute. And we're going to set the wall color And we're going to set it to black because that's the material that we are using for the black. And then we can just do the same thing for red. Controller, get component, game data, set wall color, red, and one more for aqua. Component, game data, aqua. All right, so we're now passing when we actually make the collisions, when we change our wall colors in the game that we're playing. It's going to then also save it here in our game data. So I'll go back to Unity, to our controller, and we're going to add the game data script to our controller. All right, 2 more scripts to make. The first one is very short. It's just setting up how the data should be looked at. So C# script. We're going to call this data. I have it with a capital D. And then into our data, we'll open that up. We get to basically delete most everything. So we're going to add under the using. We're going to start with a straight open bracket system dot serializable. And then we get to remove the colon / mono behavior. So it's literally just public class data. So we're just setting up how this data is going to be viewed. So we just need a public string. No, not anything. Public string. We're going to call it material. Do it with capital M. Doesn't really matter. And then we're going to do a public capital D data, which is going to have a type string. I'm going to use the variable M for material. And all we're going to just say is this material equals M. All this is just setting up is how we interact with this piece of data later on. This data script doesn't get added to anything. It just lives within your Unity files. So we can save that. One. This material equals the M variable. All right. One last script. Create C# script. We'll call this one save load. It's going to do both things in the one script. Yep. So do you have the system.serializable at the top? And then the class data, remove the colon and the mono behavior. Do you mind? Thank you. Fair.
Could you go like flip to game data really quickly?
I sure can. Which part?
Okay, I just needed to see.
I say which part? That's
I just needed to see what I missed.
Sure. Wait a minute. Yeah. I tried removing the split and then realized like how important it actually is for later on.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So let's open our save load script. This is going to be the long one, so we are going to truck it through at a moderate pace because I want to make sure we have a little bit of time for going over the state machines. So we need to add to this using system.io. So that's how we're going to be accessing our ability to save and load. We do need start. We don't need updates. We're going to add a few variables. First one, as we've done previously, a serialized field, private material, capital M. This is where we're going to have our black, red, and aqua, like we've done before. We're going to also create, like we've done before, a private game object array. So game object, open, close the straight brackets. We're going to, like before, stupid touchpad, call it walls. For this one, we're going to do private game objects. And this is where I'll have GC for tracking our game controller. We also need a private string, which we're going to call current wall material. So this is where we're going to store what that current wall material is. We need to set that private capital D data, not data. Data is going to equal, we're just going to call it data lower D data. And our last variable, private string path. And we'll set it to currently equal a whole lot of nothing. So these are the variables that we're going to use to connect our saving and loading. All right, into our start. As we've done previously, we're going to first assign that game controller is equal to game object find controller. So we want to make sure that we can start using that. Like, hey, I need to use that a few times. And then as we've done previously, we'll just steal some of our previous work. If you click back to your bullet collider, up to the top in the on enable, we're going to steal our ability to make the array and the walls. So just copy the if walls equal null, walls equal game object dot find game objects with tag wall. We're going to copy that and paste that into our start function. So that's going to now build our array that we're going to use. We need to set up the path. And so our path is going to be, for this, we're just going to use the standard one. Depending upon what you're trying to save, device you're saving on, there's different aspects that go to this. But this one, we get to use the simple one. So path equals application dot persistent data path. This is where all unities are going to save to this type of path, which I'll show you what that is. Then we're going to do a plus symbol. Because we're making a string, that's going to allow us to amend to it. So we're going to do that. Quotes, / save.json. End your quote, semicolon. So for this, we're making a JSON data type. And so we need to save it as that. You could save it as player data. You could call this wall data.json, whatever you want it to be. We're just going to call it save. And then we want to do one last thing because start is going to start on start. We want to do an if capital F file dot exists path. We want to, and we'll make this function in a minute. We're going to create a new function, load data. Load data. So basically, when your program starts, if you already have data saved, it's going to call that data and it's going to load it. If there is no data, it just doesn't care at that moment. So since we just created it or called to it, let's create it. So a private void load data, which should remove our red squigglies. For this, we're using this, because we're using the IO, we have access to the stream writer and reader. So we want stream reader is equal to reader, or stream reader reader, which is the variable type, is equal to a new stream reader, and that's going to be calling to the path. So it's saying, hey, path, what do we have at the end of that? Let's see if we can read it. And so then we need to create a string that's going to take in the JSON. So we'll call it JSON, and we're going to do reader, read to end. We want it to read the whole file, the whole JSON. We don't want just a little part of it. We want the whole damn thing. And then we're going to use our data, and that's now going to equal JSON utility dot from, I hate this, dot from JSON, right? So we're getting the JSON utility, we're grabbing from the JSON. Data is what it's going to be, and then we're leaving it with the JSON. Lots of JSONs. If your name is Jason, you're just going to hate life for the rest of the day. And so then what we're going to grab is we want to set our current wall material, because we know that wall material has been saved. If it's been saved, we know it's there as the wall material. So we can then get that out through the data. We've put all the info from the JSON into data, and we can now export it and mine through it. So capital M material. And then we end the load data with calling to another function, load material. And like we did last time, we're going to now continue on with private void load material. So that should get, helps to type it in correctly, load material. And all we're going to do for this, so many different steps. We're going to do a switch statement based off of our current wall material. Our cases for this, and this is where you need to make sure you're naming it the same, is going to be tied off of the material you created. So what's going to pull, if I go back here, we're going to do our black, red, and aqua. Make sure at this stage that your case is exactly spelt the same as your actual material, not what you're using as your variable, which is a lowercase. In this case, it needs to be uppercase. So we have case black, and then we're going to create another function in a minute, which is going to be apply material. And we're going to make it pass information. So we're going to apply material black. We're going to break this. Don't worry about the squiggly under apply material black. So we're going to also do case capital R red. At least that's how mine is.
Same apply material red. Don't forget your brakes. Oops, that's not right. Holy cow. And then aqua. Surprise, surprise. Apply color or apply material. Bless you. Aqua. Brake. Same as it is the material. So that the first one, the case is going to be based off of how exactly your material is spelt inside your materials folder.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yep. And then the lower one, the one we're passing is tied to the variables we started at the beginning. Yep. Oh, we're almost done. And then we're almost done being able to load it. We have one more private void. Surprise, surprise. Apply material. Holy cow, it helps to spell it all those. Same way. Material has one T. Oh, and then it needs to make sure we're passing in the material variable. I'm going to call it M like I've been doing the whole time. And then we're going to iterate like we did previously. So I'm going to be lazy once again. I'm going to go to the bullet collider script. Go to our change wall color. Steal the for loop. Copy it. And paste it into our apply materials. So now once again, once it loads, it's going to be like, oh, cool, I need to throw it on all these walls. Here's all the walls that we have. That's loading. Yay, we don't have any data saved yet. So let's save some data. We're going to do this as a public void save data because we're going to need to be able to call this. We're going to create two sub functions. One of them is going to be called gather materials. And the other one is going to be called create data to save. Camel case that. Let's go ahead and create these functions. So these will be private instead of public because we're going to call to the save. So we're going to make these the private. So private void gather materials. Did I misspell? I misspelled it. Make sure you have it spelled right, like I didn't. So we're going to gather material. So we need to, what we're gathering is what the current wall material is. So to do that, we're going to say current wall material is equal to, and we're going to call out to our game controller. We're going to get the component game data where we've been saving it. And we're going to call, as we set up previously, the save wall material function in the game data, right? So we set this up previously. Now we're going to call, we're going to get back the string, and it's going to tell us the color that's been saved. That's all we need in that one. Then we'll do our another private void, this time create data to save. And all we're doing in this is we're still using our data as we had done before. Data equals new capital D data. Current wall material. That's the only thing we're saving in this. If you were saving more things, this is where you would add more of those. But the more that you save, you need to make sure that you update your data script to capture everything that's being saved. So from here, we're just saving that.
All right. We are almost there. That is, oh, and then we need to go back. Hold on. Need to finish the save data. Did I really? Oh, that's a C, not a G. All right, so then in our save data function, we're going to add the remainder of saving it. So we're going to create a string. We're going to, like previous, call it JSON. And it's the JSON utility again to JSON. And we're going to pass our data. So we've saved the data. We've prepped it for saving. Now we're going to create the JSON string for that. We're going to open up our stream writer instead of reader. We're going to call it writer because that just is simple. And it's going to be a new stream writer. And this time it's actually path. So we're writing this to the path that we set up, right? So that's going to save it in the location. Lowercase writer dot write. There are multiple versions of it. Make sure it's just write. And we're writing our JSON. And since we've opened up the writer for this, we need to close the writer. And we're going to finish it with application dot quit. So we've saved our data, close the program. All right. One last thing, or a couple last things. We're just going to tie everything together. We're going to come back to Unity. We're going to make sure that in our controller that we bring in our scripts. We want our game data script and our save and load. Our save and load has the spots for our materials, so we'll click on our material assets, drag the corresponding colors. Do you mind running and seeing what his error is, please? So we have that saved. We want to go into our My Controls input actions. In our cool controls, and I think it was even in potentially gamepad. Yep. We want to, I think it's just cool controls. We have our quit. Let's just attach these to cool control and gamepad. On our quit, select and escape. So we have the select button on the gamepad or escape on the keyboard to trigger an exit. And then we need to go to we created a script previously, close game. So open the close game. We now don't want it to close it here because it won't save anything. So what we just need to do, because close game is on our controller already, we're just going to get component, save load, and run the save data function, save it, and that's it. Okay. Which part? This one. Go to which one? Close game, yes. We're just switching out the application quit for this. Yeah, it's the last page. So, while we're doing a few things over there, the piece that you can't quit your application, you can't save your data, in just testing it in Unity. So we have to go ahead and build this, which gives me a great reason to remind everybody how to build because there were some issues. So what we want to do, especially in this case, so we're going to go to File, Build Settings, and you'll notice in your build settings that it's scenes samples scene, which is not the scene we're on. So what we want to do is click the Add Open Scenes because we're now in the data scene, which will just automatically add it. We can either uncheck the sample scene or just literally delete it. It doesn't matter which one. And then like previously, we're going to build. But make sure when you're building to create a new folder. I'm going to call this data build. And then this is the folder that we want to save everything to. Because what this is going to do is provide us the exe plus all the required files for it. So if there were multiple of you that didn't do it this way, so all I would get like is an exe, and I can't run that because it's missing all the other data. So with this, we have our exe, and we have all the other important data for running it. Which, if we're doing it, then this can just be zipped, and you can send it, or you can add your descriptions or whatever needs to go with it. So if from in here we run our section, our exe, we should be able to run up, grab our gun, shoot whichever color works, red. I'm going to press my select button to close the game. And when I did that, it should have saved everything. So let's verify that. You would think it would save it to here where you just accessed your game from. No, that would be way too easy. So if you go into under your C drive, users, your username, you need to then find, you might actually have to go into view. We need to show hidden items because we need access to the app data. Local low, default company, or whatever company name your app has been signed up for, and you can find that through. Close this. Project settings, player, company name. So if you changed your company name or you changed your product name, these are the ones it's going to use. So if we come back, default company, section 1, part 2. Huh, we made it. We finally found our save.json. If we open this, you can just use Notepad to open it up. All we're saving is a material and the name of the material. So now, when we play the game again, in just a minute, when we play our game again, our walls are red. Amazing. So now if I change them to blue, if I change them to black, I close the game again, it's going to save that. So this is great for saving data for, doesn't like to play nice every time, so we're just going to go there. Let me open up the close script for those that needed it. I can bring up some other ones. We're going to not get to the state machine. So this is great for loading data, right? But this is also great for storing your data. So you can create a naming convention where it's going to save the data based on the time that the person did it, right? So you can add to save.json, you can add something in there that's going to be like a timestamp or an incremental or something that would be tracking who's using it, so you can track your participants that way, or just then resaves different data. Or you can run one of your participants in your UX testing through it, copy and paste that save JSON out of that file, and then the next person's going to come in, it'll just run the save as it wasn't there, it won't rewrite it. Currently, it'll rewrite it. But this can save, once again, time, errors, actions, movements, you name it, you can save it through this system. Questions? Cool. What are we at? We are way too. So if you don't have any other questions, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start the conversation on state machines for those that would like a little bit more understanding of them. We have 10 minutes left of class, so it's just going to be a brief start to it, and then I will probably go ahead and record another video that covers a bit more. If you feel super confident in state machines, have a great day or stick around. It's up to you. But if you'd like a little bit more info on them, we're going to go ahead and run that. Start the conversation, and then, like I said, I'm going to do another video on it to delve a little deeper. Everyone can stay too. I'm good with that. All right. So state machine is all about basically nodes, right? So we have our object. In the case that we've used in class, we have a robot, right? And the robot can do different things. This is going to probably help for those that are kind of struggling a bit with or getting ready to work on your game project. Yes.
One thing that happened with my robot, the little visor thing, it just flipped up one thing.
Probably a directional, looking at a weird direction.
How do I fix that?
I'll have to let you go. So with this, the best way for doing it is to look at what are the different states that you care about, right? So let's say that this robot is an enemy combatant in your game, right? So the robot can have a lot of different states. So we could say that one of the states is patrolling, right? We want this robot to secure the compound, right? So it's going to walk in its predefined pattern around it. Okay, cool. But like every good robot, this one's a little lazy, right? It's been on patrol for too long. So at a certain point, it might want to just reach an idle state, right? We want it to, it's like, oh my God, I've been rolling around this camp forever. I need a break. My wheels hurt, right? So at a certain point, patrolling, this is where the state's transitions come in, right? At a certain point, patrolling can become idle. And we could state that the reason for this is based off of time. After patrolling for a certain amount of time, now I want to go, I need to idle. I need a break. My life is hard. Don't judge me, I'm a robot. But patrolling could also see enemy, right? So we're going to go if that's how enemy spelled on that. We could move to another state where if it's patrolling and it actually sees the enemy player, it can now switch to another state. Attack! Oh my God, the enemy's here. I'm going to run at it, shoot at it, whatever that case is, whatever attack means. And then we could go to kill player, player run away, whatever, right? So it's gone into the attack phase. I'm going to kill you. I killed you. Yay. This could be like a little celebratory dance if you wanted to be in between. The robot gets a cookie. Or the player gets out of its range, right? The player's like, oh my God, no, attack robots. And so then state can go right back to patrolling, which then restarts your time. Eventually it's going to be like, oh my God, I'm so tired. But now attack can go different ways, right? So we could go from attack, we could go back to patrolling, but we could go to flee, right? So the robot starts taking damage. And the robot goes like, oh, I didn't know they came to play. I don't feel comfortable at my health levels. I have little robot children to care for. I'm going to run away. Which could then lead to, if you go far enough, right? It could put itself into a healing phase. So its state could then move. I've gotten far enough from the player. The player's not chasing me and actively shooting me anymore. I'm going to heal up. I have a spare battery in my backpack. I'm good. Healing can return to flee if the robot's health is so low and the player's now within range again, or starts shooting it, or loses more health. But healing could actually come back to attack if the player's still close enough, but not super close. I could have healed up my full health, and then, ha ha ha, sucker, I'm going to kill you now. Which will probably end up in an infinite loop here until the player just kills the robot. But, exactly, it can go then back to patrolling. Each one of these is a state, right? So we have patrolling, attack, flee, healing, idle. We could have dance party. We could even have a little bug in the system where the robot runs into some weird thing that you could have a random number that any of these states could lead to. I'm just going to draw up here to mean it's anything. It does some weird bug, like it falls over, it goes backwards for a little bit, it does something not normal, and then it can just go right back to one of its states, right? We can go back from bug to patrolling, or attack if they're close enough. So mapping these out, especially for as you begin working on your boss fight for sure. Anytime you're working on a state machine, it's really good to draw one of these up because now you know exactly the different states that you need. Because just like we did before, which was robot working, robot sleeping, in this situation we would have robot patrolling, robot idle, robot attack, flee, healing, bug, and each one of those is going to be its own script, its own state script. And if we add in what are all in this mapping, if we add in what are all, 3 minutes, the things that are going to change the state, right? From flee to healing. We put into our transition state on flee what we figured out already, right? Which is if robot distance between robot and player is 30 meters or more, right? Or you can't see because you can have multiple conditions, move into healing, right? And so if we've already written that out, then it's literally just copying those words over into our state code, right? And then we know already what's going to happen in the state, so that's the act. So we have our transitions already figured out, we have our actions already figured out, and then it's just figuring out, do you need something to be in the first time I've been here, or I'm leaving the state? So on enter or on exit, right? Maybe when you move into healing, the on enter is it gets little like glowing plus symbols popping up on it, right? And then on exit, turn them off. All right. That is it for class today. Thank you for those sticking around. Any last quick questions?
When I shoot the blocks, my balls turn pink still.
There's a color something issue.
That's what the shade.
It's gotta be a shader issue.
I think she was trying to help me earlier, but we're still.
Yep. Yep, thank you. All right, and I will be posting a video that's gonna then like take this, a version of this, and step through it again just to make it a little bit clearer. Okay. Where's this one?
Because it's matching another one that I found. I'm stealing your computer.
Here that pops up that says ground is one, and then put like probably one arrow. Yeah, and then only like steps to the input.
Yep.
Reset.
Use the nav mesh agent.
But yeah,
The way that I'm trying to use it in a way where let me put this on. I have my boss on a minion on the third stage.
Okay.
And so the minion would chase the player.
Sure.
But I want him to move around the obstacles.
Sure, so it should automatically move around the obstacles, so it should be pathing, so you need to make sure that the minion has the nav mesh agent attached to it, and that's gonna then grab the nav mesh, and then it's going to be like, okay, here's where it can move around. You should have, on any obstacles, should have that like white boundary.
Yeah.
Right? And so then you can set also how far away from those boundaries you want it to go.
Good luck.
In its pathing.
Okay.
Through the code of the nav mesh agent. And so then you would use the
Tonight or tomorrow, I'm gonna sit down and try that. My individual game. The what? My individual game. I gotta do a lot.
And so you'll probably want to
try
run that every. If you want it to like act like a heat-seeking missile.
Yeah.
Right. So then you would just have it. Every frame, it would be constantly getting the player's location. So it's constantly like updating the player. Otherwise, you can like update it every amount, or just update it when it gets there. So it's like, player, I'm after the player now. The player's over here. I've gotten shit. Player's not here. Now it's over here. Damn it, moving it. So you would forever be chasing it kind of a weird way. If you do more of that style, I would do it more time-based rather than like have it checked like every second or so where the player is. So it's still kind of like, oh, rather than like the PC missile. But you can also once again do that like fully just tracking.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It just has to depend upon what fits the gameplay style. And then by having the nav mesh agent, it just you would I think you need to assign just tell it the nav mesh, but
Okay.
Yeah, that helps.
Cool.
And
Yeah. So it's just gonna be like anything that's gonna spawn in with it. Just go. Cool. I know what to do.
Here.
And then you can attach whatever scripts you want to add to it, right? So if it's you can actually build a full state machine and bring it in as a full state machine if you wanted to. It's gonna have multiple things you could do, like chase, attack, lead, whatever.
Yeah.
Or if it's just really like
He doesn't
a little bomb that's gonna chase you and explode when it gets within range, like then it's literally you just have it at one code. If distance is less than this, explode. So, and then you can do You can do
Okay, that's not going to be
ray cast, so you can do a sphere
So
cast.
what we need to do is go back.
Yeah, so you can cast in a sphere and it'll track everything in that sphere. And so then you could like do an AoE damage. So like if this is within the sphere, then it takes damage. So there's lots
Oh,
of
it might have cloned into another.
I put you guys like Raycast to do that, but okay.
you can do a sphere. It's you don't want to run a sphere cast like
That is the
but definitely. But like if you're doing like an AoE damage type thing,
Would this
when it
be
goes off, you
something
can
to
just
do
look at
on
see what
Friday,
what's
or because this seems like it's gonna
yeah.
take time figuring this
So
out?
like furball or like if you're throwing a hollow potion, right? You can
It is.
Unless you just like copy a scene.
You're welcome.
Unity projects, then you're gonna have to.
Do you have any scripts?
No.
I have no idea.
Honestly, you
Just
should.
objects.
You should be able to just clone it.
I checked
And put the new
Japanese
the scene
because I know
in. Honestly, you should just be able to put the scene in, right?
I don't know because I don't know what
shaders
CC
say
data is
rendering
specific to
like
like.
every project. The only thing I could have thought of, but I haven't mentioned.
I can't imagine it would be unless there's like.
If they switched it,
Why would that?
exactly.
They would have to do that on their own because we haven't covered that.
Because I know that's one of the potential issues.
Suffice to
Sure.
say,
I could not tell you where.
Thank you for doing
no,
that.
actually, like it.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's still turning black.
Oh.
He might have to look at it. I'm not entirely sure.
They were talking about that.
So that's it.
Projects.
Make sure I got it.
So.
Go
We just tried everything, so I feel like we were accidentally.
I panicked. I did.
So just close you. Moves to your mouse, and then it goes out of that mode, and it'll call you. Don't want to press 3.
So with that.
It was because I was in mouse mode, so it was gonna follow me until I told it to go. So anyway, now.
That sets a non-render pipeline.
I might have to look at it, but I have no idea where it could
Okay, I
be.
did test this before.
If it's not the material, is it the script?
There we go. And then it lives.
If you mess with it that much, it might just might be where you're setting the color because it's registering it
Idle,
correctly.
so idle state.
That's
Well, the subject of these, or the, I just noticed something with the body, the robot body, it just would, the visor just goes up, and I guess I need to resubmit the whole thing again, because I only got like 2 states instead of 5. I don't, so if I load up my, robot to view
I was like,
what the problems are.
it was
You might be able to
probably
use that more.
it's just one of those things. I mean, Unity builds a lot of stuff that you dig into.
I can't even send the file on G.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's definitely.
Getting Google Drive.
No, I'm just saying that they're only there.
A little bit. If you just can't get it to work, then that's the message to put.
Yeah.
Are both of them
She's
working?
good.
Okay, I'm going to change that now.
Sorry about that. I have
Oh,
no idea
all
what
good.
happened.
No, I doubted that I was wrong. I even went in this morning. I think I did it 8 times total, then 2 more this
I
morning.
actually feel bad because I'm like, why did that happen?
Oh no, all good.
I was just like trying to find interesting things I could do, and I was like,
I thought they were awesome. Cool.
Just out of curiosity, Eddie,
Yes.
did you I made an enemy that like patrolled. When
Give
you
your reasons why.
I don't know if you
It can't just be because.
remember mine specifically.
It gets changed logged for security reasons.
Give me 1 second. I'm in a conversation. I'll be right back.
When you walked up to the enemy, did you walk like directly like into him?
I bolt ran directly into him and then walked around him, not touching him. Like it was like I don't know how to say the distance, but like
Yeah. Okay. So the way I did it, the state machine doesn't reset like at all. It just goes through the 5 states linearly, which is really great.
it's okay.
I figured for the exercise. The way that he shaped that it was supposed to enact a chase was it has like a cone in front of it, a vision cone that you're supposed to walk into. So I think you
Could
might have just walked into him and then got too close.
if I can pull it up. Fred,
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't know where.
So
Perfect.
that there he
Okay.
close enough, and then he'll stop. And that's like the attacking.
Like different save
Mm.
load, like to one big save load script, and you can set.
No, I will go and change that right now. That was something I tried messing with, and
Yeah, that was kind of bad. I should have explained that there was a vision coming.
totally fine.
Makes sense.
But it's as easy as
When
that.
actions
It totally works.
I just
Um,
need to save inventory. I just attach this to
To the
inventory
line.
and then it saves and loads its own stuff.
okay.
So
Not
Yeah,
six.
yeah, because it really just depends upon
Okay.
like, what you need for this. It's more. I was going through this because
this is how files work. Because it uses the same.
right, it's gonna use the same structure.
Yeah.
I could look up.
But for this, it's more like showing how we're doing for the data collection
I went
side.
ahead and changed your grade. It's full
For
66.
inventory, like
Thank you.
would
I
have
appreciate it.
multiple save loads that would then run at different times
Yeah.
because you're going to want to save your inventory when you get. So imagine in a game you get like the super best random weapon drop,
Yeah,
right?
you want that.
You want that saved immediately versus like, oh shit, crash. Like you can also have this
I think what I can
kind
do
of run on
is
crash, but it's not a guarantee.
the whole
So
Make Wish has
not
only
knowing
one save
what
point.
you could do. versus,
You can only ever save from the base because it made it easier for us
It
to
just
save
make a
data.
prefab and make it for
Sure.
everything that I'm
Maybe I
supposed to
like
do.
these better than that, but inventory
So I can
storage
literally just
is rough.
make it a prefab because it's just.
Yeah, I'm just kind of worried because I don't see all of our stuff for projects.
We use like
Yeah,
script
and then
objects,
the
so
stuff
that
that
also
you
meant
guys have
like
control
creating a
Oh
custom
no, I'm thinking of the one.
object to then save it in, which honestly wasn't bad once I've done it once. It just sucked the first time because I was like, scriptable objects aren't serializable. I need to make a serializable version. Scriptable objects are still beneficial, but I basically have to redo just for the saving system. It's silly.
yeah. No, exactly. It's definitely one of those things that's like,
So
It's fun.
it is. It's the first time since
working
we
here,
were
you just go into your little
Oh,
We're
okay.
just like loading the data
the one from
because he was getting it back into the game and getting the game to actually reset properly. That was really annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I took off the
It's
split
here, but
online,
how do I
and
then
it's not working. I was like,
do that through here?
because now
Do I need to
Now there's like
all
all
this
this
info,
yeah.
I just go
Or-
like this.
Yeah,
Learn those
so
little.
we had interns helping us with Make-A-Wish over the summer, which was fine for the most part, except for when we like structure instructions. And then did something really jank, and then I'd be like, I'm pretty sure I explicitly stated this, but now I have to restructure this because it's driving me nutty. And that happened with the quest system. And the quests need to be saved because I had to.
Can you do me a favor? Can you stop my recording?
Rude.
And I didn't trust.
No, I know. They're just gonna listen.